Back to Lucy, who's somehow still alive. Didn't she have the wound that I mentioned earlier? The same one that will be contradicted by Man's best friend in the next episode. We see Lucy attending a meeting with the now in charge council made up of Betty, Reg and Woody. Security won't be in attendance as the plot doesn't need them right now, nor will they be discussing the fact if they were screwed before with their population issues, they are absolutely fucked now, because the best way to solve a crisis is of course to ignore it. Lucy requests 4 people to go find her dad, as security didn't even attempt to intercept the kidnappers because that would have gotten in the way of what the writers wanted to happen. Or maybe people just looked at how Lucy and Hank handled the hostage situation and decided to follow their example, saying,
"Fuck 'em."
The council refuses to indulge Lucy's request due to the fear of letting more people in, as that's how they think 32 got compromised. But after what we just went over, I wouldn't be surprised if they just knocked and they let them in. With no help from the council, Lucy decides she'll rescue her dad herself, so he can come back and ignore the population problem he oversaw, so they can watch the vault die together. To accomplish this, Lucy needs to get to the external door above the elevator. No one keeps lookout while Chet is plugged into the panel to unlock it. And I say unlocking instead of hacking because Pip-Boys have never been used for hacking, and Chet doesn't seem to be doing anything other than waiting for the doors to open. Unless turning a nozzle a few times and pressing a button counts as hacking. But with the quality of this show, how can you know? And maybe Chet has the means because he is a gatekeeper, even though all that position seems to involve is pressing a single button every 3 years. So why does he have the means to unlock the elevator? Fuck if I know. And you might think this undermines my earlier argument about the vault doors and the panels, but I've already accounted for that. The panel for Lucy's home and the armory panel look identical, with a power cable running down from the bottom and a button to press up top with 2 lights below it, red for close, green for open, although for some reason the armory door shows red while open because consistency is heresy in this show, and there's no data port at the bottom as far as I can see. Meanwhile, the elevator panel has a red light above, a call button below, and a data port to unlock or lock the elevator. Even though stationing a guard here would be a better way to restrict elevator access, but if people were smart, nothing could happen in this show. And if there was a port, all that means is Lucy didn't lock her door properly, and if closing from the inside doesn't stop it from being unlocked from the outside, then Lucy's either very trusting or a freak who wants to get caught. Which makes Moldao's already implausible plan even more implausible, as how the hell would she know which Pip-Boy unlocked the armory? And how would she get in to unlock the armory without being detected? With the absence of any meaningful security, Chet is able to unlock the doors and off they go. Even though we just witnessed a meeting where the dwellers were displaying paranoia over the door being breached, like Vault 32's, there's no assigned personnel here either, nor do they restrict access to this floor by adding an additional requirement, or simply disabling the button to this floor, or the elevator itself, as logic will not stop these writers from their desired outcomes. Which brings me to Moldava, because the elevator alone opens up another problem for her. If it was locked, how'd she get past it in 32? And if it wasn't locked, that means that she would now have to have overpowered Vault 32 with nothing but blades and a smaller force, since she wouldn't be able to bring everyone down in one trip. It just becomes an ever more absurd logistical nightmare. Chet activates the platform bridge via some buttons to get to the gate panel on the other side. Norm was told to keep an eye on the elevator, which he manages to fuck up in a minute. Chet proceeds to unlock the panel, because apparently anyone can open it, or maybe being a glorified doorman is enough to hold this entire population's fate in your hands. You'd think you would need someone of rank, kind of like an overseer of the Vault 111 Pip-Boy that Nate and Nora used to escape in Fallout 4. But no, Lucy needs to go on an adventure. Logic be damned. Chet begins the process as Lucy tells him to look after Norm. And they gave Chet the designation as the most moral before because he helped out Harper and left Lucy behind after the hostage situation. But he's taken a step backwards, now helping both Lucy and Hank after the same event. Still, Lucy offers to go with her and offers some real rational responses as to why.
Chet, what you're doing is insane. You don't even know which way to go. It isn't like the vault out there. It's big.
I like to think it's about security of the vault and less about him getting his dick back inside his cousin, but a man can dream. Lucy's response?
Not letting anyone else get hurt on my behalf. Okay.
Norm fails to mind the elevator because he's a twat. And didn't I just see Lucy asking for 4 people during the meeting?
We send a search party to the surface to find my dad. We can spare 4 people from farm duty for up to 2 weeks, even with our dwindled numbers.
What was she going to do if they said yes? Caress each one of their hands gently and trank them one by one? Unless they're blind and have the equivalent of Chet's cousin fever, I doubt that would have worked. And even more so when you realise the trank dart came out of nowhere. Lucy tells Norm that he's staying behind, but fortunately for her, his father and sister aren't reason enough to be brave, so he embraces their family philosophy of
Fuck him.
Lucy hugs him goodbye and is all at peace with this, which is strange because if I had a sibling who's basically said,
Oh, I don't give a fuck.
I'd be more offended. This family's bloody awful. Lucy presses a button once the vault door begins to open. You can hear klaxons blaring. Just like at the start of Fallout 4. Makes you wonder why those alarms wouldn't echo through the entirety of the vault or vaults via additional klaxons, speakers, or just some sound travelling as a warning to the dwellers. But that'd be one more obstacle that Moldova couldn't have possibly overcome. And the panel's in the wrong place. According to Fallout 4, it's supposed to be on the opposite side of the gap, closer to the vault. But here, it's not. The bridge retracts as Lucy presses a button on the panel, and at first, I was going to say bullshit on this whole retraction, as it feels conjured purely for Lucy's convenience. But to be fair, it's possible that the abort button on the panel may act as a retract, and that Lucy could have then used the manual interlock to lock the bridge after pressing abort. Which raises a good question. Why'd you put this level of control on the side that any invader would reach first? Couldn't it be that the rise just stuck it there so Lucy could have full control and avoid the bridge standing after the opening door like it does in Fallout 4, so she won't be captured? Surely not. And once again, security is nowhere to be seen, because they appear only when the rise need them, and they don't need them to stop Lucy right now. With the manual interlocked engaged, courtesy of a conveniently designed vault that's been serving her every step of the way, almost like it was built just for her, and with no override on the other side to contradict that, Lucy gazes into the sunlight that, according to Fallout 2, should have had some nasty consequences.
Be with you, is there truth making in my imagination?
A missed opportunity by all, and with that, she steps into the real world. She steps outside and we see skeletons and dust-shaped bodies whose presence is questionable after 219 years. We also see that this vault's apparently built inside some kind of structure that must have been destroyed by the bombs. Then she turns a corner and we see where we are. Santa Monica Pier, Los Angeles. The Boneyard in the lore. We have a lot to talk about here. The Boneyard has existed since the first Fallout took place 84 years after the bombs, and it's right down the road from a place called the Cathedral, headquarters of the Master, who led an army scouring the wasteland to find vaults to harvest their populations. He found Vault 12 in the Necropolis, and if you fail to stop him, he'll find 13 and 15 to the north, who aren't exactly out in the open. But not as it exposes 31, 32, and 33, with 32's door just sitting right there out in the open. This show literally can't exist within its own writing. More so when you see the overhead shot, and you have to ask, where the hell is 32's exit door? As 33 and 32 would be aligned with each other, so logically 32's door should be visible in the distance, lined up with 33's door. But it isn't. I'd say 31's door is to the right like the picture in episode 3 shows, but I'd say that ditch would make construction awkward, which leaves the left side, and that leaves 31 in the goddamn ocean. Is there nothing in this show that they haven't screwed up? Or have I? Do let me know. Oh, and welcome to the Boneyard. And what used to be the U California Republic, or the NCR if you prefer. Yes, that NCR, the one that said they would erase out of spite and that it would be stupid to do so. Because doing so would destroy the legacy of the first two games, and most of U Vegas. Conveniently now the games that Bethesda has made, well, they did it anyway. How dead is the NCR? There's more evidence of the United States that died 219 years ago than there is of the NCR. A nation state that spanned the entire state of California with a functioning military, manufacturing, politicians, cattle barons, and even a university right here in the Boneyard. How's this represented in the show? With 2 flags, 2 Brahmin out of thousands, a helmet on some random scavenger, not even a fraction of its population, and some raider trash wearing NCR uniforms. That's it. All gone since the last time we saw them in Vegas, which was only 15 years ago in 2281.
Son of a bitch!
Where the fuck is the Legion? That huge conquest-driven faction that was trying to take Vegas and the NCR? Yes, I know the Legion will be featured in the second season, God fucking help me, which means that they were beaten back at Hoover Dam, and that probably means Kaiser's dead. Maybe the same for Linnaeus, which probably led to the Civil War, but even then, to have absolutely no Legion present after the unjust NCR ratio and this ultimate plot inconsistency? So what well-written explanation has the original creator and others who should know better given their approval for this spiteful erasure of the NCR? The NCR was nuked. No, not the whole of the NCR, just their capital. One town. Japan had 2 cities nuked during World War II. Does Japan look this dead to you people? And the collective response to killing of Fallout 1 and 2's legacy? The same reaction people had for the promise to finish off New Vegas in the 2nd season. Enjoy the future, for I have seen it, Bethesda Defenders. Now for the third main character, the Ghoul. We begin an introduction to the Ghoul, what looks like a walking stereotype of Mexico, and I think the writers might have done this deliberately, to signal that this is Mexico, and the dialogue going forward seems to allude to that fact. Which shockingly means the show actually did something right. Yes, I'm shocked as well. Anyway, moving on. Sombrero Man is the last song because he's shot dead by Fallout 4 reference, the junk cannon, wielded by a fat man accompanied by a skinny man and their leader, Honcho. And I call them fat and skinny because that's how deep their characters run. They stroll into the fort our man was guarding, which apparently had no one else on duty. I guess stereotype was this fort's only hope. Through dialogue we learned they're looking for someone buried here by a man named Don Pedro. He likes to dig up his prisoner, the Ghoul, once a year to cut bits off him, then bury him again until next year. Dom did this recently, so Honcho is looking for the fresh grave to retrieve our Ghoul for some reason. When Honcho finds the grave and the other two realize he's a Ghoul from these bags above the grave, and just like the vaults the show added, this can't exist either. Quick history on Ghouls. They are humans who suffered massive amounts of radiation exposure who turned into things that live for centuries. They are immune to radiation, disease, poisons, can be killed by normal means, but still need food and water, and suffer the downsides such as looking like this. Or at least they did suffer these downsides. And I'm not just talking about their looks where Fallout 4 ghouls gave them leathery skin and none of the rot. They also made you don't need food and water via a ghoul kid surviving in a fridge for 200 years, but also had a ghoul settlement that required food in that same game. Some people have tried justifying this with earlier quests like the unmarked quest called Rescue Coffin Willie from Fallout 2, where an old ghoul is meant to have survived being buried for months. But that one comes across as more of a dark joke about grown-up kids never visiting their older parents, instead of a lore point. Along with 3 insane ghouls that survived being trapped for 200 years in a labor camp in New Vegas' Old World Blues DLC. But I'm not sure if it was a city adhering to a standard Bethesda set, applied without thought, or if there was some way they could have survived being trapped that I just can't recall. Not sure, I'm afraid. And one downside that Bethesda actually kept for the ghouls is a chance for ghouls to go feral, which is basically a loss of identity and mindless savagery for everything that isn't a ghoul. Going feral can happen gradually, or you just wake up one day as a feral monster. Which brings us back to those bags. Because apparently they're medicine that prevents ghouls from going feral. That's shown to be within California later, and here via these bags. Even though this medicine was never mentioned in any Fallout game before this show, it would be treated as if it's always been available throughout the Fallout timeline. Even though it makes no goddamn sense. More on the medicine later. Honcho insists that Ghoul is their ticket to a big payoff and reveals he's never actually met the man they're betting everything on, and not a you of him for his dad, who wants to work with him. Judging by Skinny's reaction to that revelation,
Your pop. How long has this asshole been moldering in the ground?
it's safe to say Honcho's dad has been out in the mercenary game for quite some time. Based on that, I'd estimate the Ghoul has been in the ground anywhere from 15 to 25 years. Later, a conversation with a man named Sorrel Booker has him saying,
And fucked up that super duper mark. Nobody told me it was legal. Kids these days don't know their goddamn history.
when they show no knowledge of the Ghoul's legendary reputation in California. Those kids are at least in their early 20s, which backs up my claim even further. This also means that they're looking for someone they've never met, and are betting everything on the skills and mental state of someone who has spent over a decade underground, but is somehow supposed to be just as capable as Honcho heard from his dad. Once again,
How long has this asshole been moldering in the ground?
Fat Man asks,
How do we know he's not feral?
if those bags are what the plot says they are, that should have been a hint. Plus, it's not hard to tell. But then,
That is why
we brought our little friend. A feral ghoul can't abide a chicken.
1. Where the fuck did they get an unirradiated chicken? You would think it would be worth more than bait in this world. 2. Feral ghouls attack anything that isn't a ghoul. It's not complicated. 3. Where in God's name did he or the Rise get this dumb idea from? Seriously, I want to know. Honcho lays this rare animal surprisingly obedient as unrestrained bait. Then somehow, they manage to yank up a coffin that has a full-grown man inside it without any kind of pulley system or mechanical aid. Because why not? And while we're at it, how the hell are those IV bags even working? That coffin is sealed shut. There's no way the IV bags could be pumping anything into the school. Maybe the fat man wasn't so dumb after all. Honcho opens the coffin with some kind of rain. His pistol drawn, and with his companion's weapons pointed at the coffin, he emerges. With ear-bleeding yodeling. That someone thought was cool. It isn't. And he's surprisingly intact for someone who's supposed to have pieces cut off him every year of his imprisonment. And a nose doesn't count as that's standard for ghouls. Writers, you literally had Honcho saying cutting was a thing and contradict that in less than 5 minutes. What the fuck, writers? The ghoul's revealed to be Cooper Howard from the intro. There's no question how he got irradiated. But still no explanation for how he wasn't obliterated by the last nuclear bomb he encountered. He speaks, confirming he's not feral by telling a bad joke.
Wow, is this an Amish production of the Count of Monte Cristo, or just the weirdest circle jerk I've ever been invited to?
Despite that, they remain unnecessarily tense, and Honcho reveals the reason for his rescue. A rather large bounty which just so happens to be for...
Yeah, now somebody made a run from the Enclave.
Our Enclave, Dennison. That's twice someone's referenced the Enclave like they're not the harbingers of genocide. I generally think the Rise still thought the Enclave was a location at this point, because Honcho and the Ghoul would be reacting with a lot more concern if they knew what they are actually about, as the Enclave will label everyone here as a mutant to be exterminated. Yes, normal people born outside their control are to them no different than from feral ghouls, good for nothing but killing. And why the hell is one of the most dangerous and technologically advanced factions using what they call mutant bounty hunters to catch a 60-something-year-old man instead of doing it themselves? Especially when he has...
An object of profound potential.
It's not because they are hiding. Honcho knows who hired him.
From the Enclave.
And the Ghoul's lack of reaction tells me this Enclave was active in the area before his imprisonment. Which is hilarious, as Vegas had Enclave residents living on the fringes of society in fear of execution by the NCR. And that was only 15 years ago yet again. Greatest adaptation ever, people. Oh god, I just realised the Enclave's being portrayed just like this Brotherhood, as a joke and in name only. What the fuck was everyone drinking when they watched this? Now let's appreciate the fact that bounty hunters not only have the same intel, but even more intel than the Brotherhood in name only.
Dead witch, Moldy, in California.
I bet Honcho even knows where Moldavia is within California. This Brotherhood can get information from one side of the country to the other, and hand deliver it from where it would have had to have come from in the first place, and still get outdone by local bounty hunters who have the name the BOS conveniently missed. The one name that would have made all the intel worthwhile. Imagine having an operation like the BOS and being outdone by 3 local bounty hunters. Best adaptation ever. And even though the Ghoul has been in the ground for years and has little to no money, no weapons, out-of-date knowledge, most of his friends are probably dead, with nothing but the clothes on his back, he still needs to be sold on the job they're offering. Another moron. Apparently we don't have enough of these in this show. Speaking of which, Honcho further goes on to confirm he's a goddamn moron. Apparently it wasn't the Ghoul's destitution or need for an opportunity he thought would bring him in. Nope. He thought the attraction would be... California. Because that's where he's from. From before the bombs. Because who doesn't like visiting their home after it's been incinerated? And with that, Honcho tries to confirm his original location, which leads to an act of absolute stupidity and this ear-bleeding yodeling.
And what the fuck would you know about where I'm from?
Do I need to repeat all the disadvantages I just said? How about one more? He needs that medicine regularly or he'll go feral. He doesn't have any of that, and he's starting shit with the only people who can help him.
Well, that That don't sound like gratitude, do it, boys? How about we put you right back in that hole so Don Pedro can have his fun with you for the next 30 years?
What an odd thing to say.
Don't tell me it was 30 years in the hole, because that would make this even more retarded. And speaking of things being special, the previous scene already established the ghoul as a fool, and what follows confirms, just like everyone else, that the plot protects him. He's unarmed, facing 3 men with guns, out in the open, no cover and nowhere to run. So what does he do? He squats down, grabs a rein that's attached to the coffin door, the same rein wrapped around Honcho's left hand, and starts tying it into a lasso, as the 3 amigos just watch in bewilderment. Then somehow, he lassos Honcho, a 6'2" brick wall of a man, and yanks him so hard he goes airborne, all with one hand, no leverage, and all without Skinny and Fat Man firing a single shot. How strong is he meant to be? Ghouls don't have super strength. Do you think the Rising Under Ghouls don't have super strength? Something tells me they don't. And Skinny finally fires a shot, but only after the ghoul grabs him, and somehow, he doesn't lose a leg or foot from the point-blank blast. Fat Man finally shoots and kills his companion instead, and even though he's not out of ammo, he just starts firing. Keep in mind, they'd have to be very strong to wield that cannon, yet he won't use any of that physical strength to run at the ghoul. Instead, because our ghoul is a protected main character, he'll just sit there and do what the plot demands of him. More ear bleeding, which leaves Honcho, who now has the lasso wrapped around his mouth and tangled in his left hand, even though seconds ago the rope was encircled over his right shoulder, around his back, and under his left arm. And this is done. Why? Was it supposed to restrict him? They just showed that he's right-handed. He had a 6-shooter in his right hand. Restricting his left hand wouldn't stop him from drawing it. And speaking of not drawing, why isn't he? Even if he lost it during the ghoul's little super strength showcase, why isn't he charging the guys about to kill him? Biding his time? Nope. Because as the ghoul approaches, he gives him the perfect opening and still does nothing. Then the ghoul once again decides to break physics. What Looney Tune bullshit did I just witness? It's a pine box coffin. It wouldn't be anywhere near heavy enough to do that. What's that causing to slaughter all these men that could offer more benefits than downsides? Because they asked where he's from and didn't think their hearts were in it. Because they were seeking to retire after this. Because nothing says a lack of motivation like wanting to survive one last payday. Another character who's stupid, evil, or both. And I gotta say, I was really hoping that Honcho was still conscious down there, that he shoot the ghoul in the head, or better yet the leg, sending him tumbling back into the hole he just crawled out of. But no. Instead, a ghoul walks off into the dark while people mistake it for some kind of badass triumph. Why isn't it a triumph? Ask yourself, how often does he need the medicine? Once a day. He just killed his best hope of fighting it. But because the plot protects him, the one bag he decides to loot just so happens to have days worth of medicine that he needs. Honcho brought this along because he doesn't know what the word leverage means. And remember, the ghoul couldn't have known that that bag had medicine, he's walking off like he's king of the world. And the other reason why he's plot protected, and why that walk isn't a triumph, is that shotgun. It's not fucking loaded. Skinny fired one shot, the ghoul fired the second, and then he injected the shell, but he never picked up any ammo off Skinny. And Honcho was so stupid that he didn't charge when he had the chance, and he got held up by a guy who shouldn't have known it was empty. And a ghoul walks off like a king while he has no idea he has the medicine. No idea if his knowledge is still relevant, after all these years, and he's facing the wasteland with an empty gun, because he was too dumb to loot the bodies. And with nothing but the name Moldover, and the state of California as the location, and what's possibly tomorrow for our ghoul, he won't be anywhere where he needs to be in the next episode. He'll be exactly where he needs to be, because the plot demands it. We've got an infiltration led by a villain who makes every mistake possible and still succeeds. Main characters protected more by plot armor than any actual skill. A country that should exist but doesn't. 3 vaults that shouldn't exist but do. A brotherhood in name only. An enclave casually disregarded when it shouldn't be. And a miracle medicine that exists despite history, logic and reason. All because the plot demands it. And this is supposed to be a good adaptation of Fallout? Something that's meant to add to the lore while destroying most of it in the process? Out of what feels like pure spite and jealousy from Bethesda? I don't even think this is a good show on its own. I genuinely believe this might be the dumbest TV show ever made. Disagree with me? Please prove me wrong. And one day I'll have another episode out. Until then, if you made it this far, take care. Bye-bye for now.